What is up, guys? My name is Kale Brock. I'm a surfer and a filmmaker, and I want to take you through some common beginner mistakes that I see as a surf coach. Oh my, look at this wetsuit tan. That's so intense. Anyway, on the weekend I ran a beginner surf day retreat. I'll be running a lot of retreats around the world next year, travel pending and all the rest of it. But this one was particularly interesting because I found some really common threads that my beginners were struggling with. So I thought I'd take this clip, put it together, and give you guys a taste of what we go through when someone's trying to progress their surfing with a coach. All these clips actually go up twice a week at my Patreon page. So all of my Patreon members get access to all these beginner coaching clips twice a week. You can check out the link in the description below to find out more. I won't be jumping in and out of today's clip. We'll just go straight to the voiceover. I'll give you the raw data. This is exactly the type of feedback that my beginners get, and they use it to progress really fast. Okay, mate, let's have a chat about your session. We wanted to line up this takeoff a little bit better so that you paddle in on an angle, but your body stays centered over your board. This is causing this disconnect, which we were seeing quite regularly from you and your board, as opposed to you being nice and centered over it. Now, if we watch this young girl here, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Notice how she does take off at an angle. She actually fades it, but she also stays quite centered over her board. That's the sort of position that we want to go towards with a pop-up. So if we sort of compare those two side by side, yes, this is sort of a drastic version of yours. But as soon as you notice a steep wave, you tend to pull back. Your body at least pulls back, but your surfboard and your lower half kind of commits, and that's where we see that disconnect. So what I want to do is really encourage you to stay more centered over your board like that. You know, that execution is a lot better, and I dare say that came from you feeling more confident paddling into that wave. Here's the side by side. So I think with some good paddling exercises, which I've put at the end of this clip, hopefully we can build up that confidence. And then it is just a time thing. It's getting you used to knowing when you're in the right position, when you're not, and all the rest of it. And that's a cool part of surfing. Cool, so that one there, you're in a perfect spot, but kind of stop paddling too soon. If we watch the difference here between you and Pete over here on the left, you'll see that that's that last minute glide. Watch the left of screen on this next one. Okay, there. See how he pauses until he knows he's got that glide and he's in. So he's put in a lot of strokes, whereas if we now watch you, see how the paddling sort of stops, and that last one wasn't even a paddle, it was more of a slap. So you've really got to put in that effort and really only take off there, you know, once you're really gliding into the wave. And it's a lot safer to do that than it is to pull back at the top. Cool, so this one here, we talked about the angle. You were sort of fading it, paddling as if it was a right-hander. When trying to overcome confidence issues, we want to give you an advantage. So an advantage would be to switch up that angle by about 45 degrees and come over here to the bottom right of screen instead. And that just puts you a step ahead, and then you would have been able to get up there on the face. It would have been more likely that you were up there on the face, and you wouldn't have had to sort of slow down and deal with the white water there. Cool, so some body integrity stuff there. Because you're not feeling confident, your legs are sort of flailing, like that's your safety mechanism, your anchor back there, those legs, so that you can bail out the board. Let's really keep the body over the board. There are the legs again, and really trust in your takeoff and getting low. And if we do need to look at the takeoff, which, you know, to be honest, we might need to a little bit, that's also going to increase your confidence too. Hey buddy, let's have a chat about your session. The main thing we wanted to chat about was you sort of traveling to the bottom of the wave out of the power zone before deciding to turn and look down the line. So we want to sort of initiate that a little bit sooner. And that might be paddling in on a little bit more of an angle. It could be just, you know, having that mindset of get in and get high straight away on a wave. Now, there are opportunities where you can go straight to the bottom. Like on this one, you probably could have gone straight to the bottom and then gone up and done a big maneuver. Ideally, just for the purposes of trying to practice, I would have rather have seen you go up nice and high, like at the start of this wave. So we'll analyze those two together and see what the difference was. So this point here, notice how it, well, that's the end result. I think the first result is you're sort of moving through into the pocket, and you can actually avoid that if you want to, and then go down once you've actually got your speed and go straight into a maneuver. The main difference that occurred there was that quick entry. So it's a quick pop-up and then that light bottom turn. Notice how, and we spoke about this throughout the session, that the bottom turn shouldn't be a maneuver. It should be a transition. So engaging that rail nice and early, you can see as I popped up, I was looking down the line ready to do this, really helps you get the fins in, get the rail in nice and early to be able to move up the wave face. So if we sort of look at a couple of these here, this is sort of the examples where you turn the bottom turn into maneuvers rather, and you can see like sort of stalling like that is actually throwing away a lot of energy as opposed to holding on to it. So I think some good surf skating practice will help you, to be honest. That was a little example there. Again, we're looking for that light, very light shrug up to the top of the wave to then get down the line and use it accordingly. So I think you know, some early conscious effort to do that is going to be good. So having it in your mind, like I'm going to take off on an angle and I'm going to get up nice and high, is going to be really good, because you'll notice when you watch good surfers do this in a pop-up, they're already sort of doing their bottom turn as they're in the pop-up. You know, they're straight in there. It's almost seamless, right? So that's what we want to move towards. I think that'll be really good for you, and then we can start to move towards some good flow movements too on the wave, because I think that initial turn will really get things going. Cheers, mate. I'll see you soon. Alrighty, let's have a chat about your session. Oh, cool. So again, a really sort of difficult position to take off from. This is that whole, you know, facing the wave as long as possible to make an informed choice. In stark contrast to this wave here. Whereas if we line these two up, which surfer do you think is going to take off easily and get down the face? Obviously the one over here to the right, which is what happened. So positioning is everything, and I think your commitment there to that position really worked well for you, and you ended up getting a good ride. Now, one thing I want to look at is the pop-up. So again, your first instinct is to go to the knees instead of bringing that one leg, the front leg, through in order to land on your feet, essentially, or transition to your feet rather. It's less of a pop-up than it is a transition. So that position there, again, you're at the bottom of the wave now, whereas this surfer on the right is at the top, and they get to actually, you know, make a much more informed and empowered line on the wave. So again, this exercise for you, I think, is going to be fantastic, just to drive home that muscle memory.
When it comes to popping up, one big thing I see with beginners is that they get really flustered and try and do everything very, very quickly. So they're going to disorientate themselves and upset their equilibrium on their surfboard. And when you're paddling like a maniac and not actually paddling efficiently, that can really upset your equilibrium on the surfboard. So for one, you're starting on the back foot. And then I see people getting up and standing up, really trying to be quickly, ending up being heavy-footed and being too tall, too high. I think you want to be getting up slower and lower. Instead of like a pop-up or a jump-up, I think of like, how can you slide up to your feet? For starters, I would really focus on getting the hips open, especially if you're surfing at a beginner or intermediate level as an adult. There's a lot of tension to undo before we have that efficiency and that fluidity. So I'd really spend some time opening the hips. So one nice hip stretch would be just the normal lunge. And I'd also exercise out of perfect range of motion. So I'd be allowing myself to extend the knees beyond the toes, the front leg, whilst you're opening up the opposite hip. I'd also be playing around with some circular motions. Then you can transition that from a downward dog to stepping 1 foot forward to the outside of your hand at a time. You can do that variable tempo and intensity as well. It can be fast, it can be slow. You can add a little bit of a push-up with that, which I'll demonstrate. So I'd definitely be concentrating on opening the hips. I'd definitely be concentrating on getting a nice open and extension in the spine, particularly the upper back. Open upper back, strong lower back, strong set of glutes, open hips.
Cool. So I'll point out a couple of things with this wave. Super difficult to catch. This is not a very friendly position to be in, and here's why. The wave is actually traveling in you're going that direction, the wave traveling in that direction. So ideally I would have actually had you over here to line those up with a little bit more synchronicity. As soon as we're surfing into a bigger part of the wave, you can see it sort of gets bigger to the right. It makes things a lot more difficult because we have to actually get ahead of all that. With our paddling and our takeoff. So this was sort of a great progression, I think, for you. If we compare you to the other surfer here, what's the difference? It's when they start to take off, when they stop paddling. Notice how they've already achieved that glide before they actually pop up. That's really important because they're not going to fade off the back, whereas we see you sort of fade off the back, and that was paddling choice. You sort of stopped paddling a little bit too early, and as a result you sort of slowed down a little bit. But that would have been a really good opportunity for you to put into practice this angle takeoff and to really work on getting out on an open face. This one here, super difficult. This happens to everybody, so don't feel bad about that one. Big respect for getting back out there and catching some waves after that. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I will see you very soon. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment below. What are you struggling with as a surfer? Make sure you join me on Instagram at Kale's Broccoli, and check out the Patreon link down below if you think these clips would be helpful for you as a surfer trying to progress. I'll see you soon.